Podcasting 2.0 for January 22nd, 2021, episode 21. Hooray for Hollywood! Yeah, I know. I make up the titles before we start the show. It's something new I'm trying. Friday afternoon time once again for a board meeting of Podcasting 2.0, podcastindex.org. What is going on with the future of podcasting? Where are we at? Who are the players? And you know, every single company should do one of these. Forget quarterly reports. Just do a podcast. I'm Adam Curry in Austin, Texas. Now the man who can memorize more transactions than the mempool. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Jones.
No, that's too Bitcoin nerdy, man.
No, I'm going full on, man.
Maximalist. You're a Bitcoin maximalist.
Yes, I am. And I dove into the mempool last night trying to understand what was going on. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, I was wondering, are you excited about you now spend your Bitcoins twice? Evidently, that's an option now.
No, interestingly, that's exactly what I was doing yesterday. Not double spending, but trying to replace. Well, it's a long story, but that double spend story is kind of FUD. It's not.
No, it's sketchy.
Yeah,
I dove into it last night to figure it out, and it was like, oh, well, that makes sense. It's just a normal bailout to a new chain. I mean,
yeah, it's kind of a feature of the whole system. So it's like, well, okay, if you want to call that a double spend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it was just part of the normal FUD that's going on right now.
Oh, you mean the FUD like Janet Yellen saying that cryptocurrency is only used for illicit purposes, like podcasting?
Yeah, Janet, have you checked the U.S. dollar lately? Last time I checked, it was used for a lot of illicit things too.
Yeah, I think I can pull any random dollar out of my pocket and it'll probably have traces of something on it. Not my traces, but in general. Woo! All right, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. It's a pretty intense week of at the day job, but I'm hanging in there. It's a Friday. I'm just so glad that it's Friday.
No, I hear you. It's my favorite. It really is my favorite day of the week. You know, I chill out a little bit in the morning, resting from a hard day's work on Thursday, which is in fact true.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, I get to talk about what we've been doing. What have we been doing? I don't know. I'll have to ask Dave on the show.
Yeah, I'll tell you what we're supposed to have been doing.
Okay.
I know how to get. I got this though. You know, we were talking about the New York Times Caliphate show last week.
Yeah.
And so it dawned on me. I was thinking, it kept bothering me that show has not been deplatformed yet when it's totally fake. I mean, everything about it is a lie.
Well, hold on. Why would it have to be deplatformed?
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Off Spotify.
It's just a lie. We got lots of lies in the database.
Well, true. That's true.
but from cancel culture perspective, you mean?
Yeah. It hasn't been canceled yet.
Well,
It's a complete lie.
No, you can't cancel because it's the New York Times and it's the Daily production team.
I've got I figured out it hit me when I looked at the list of episodes. There's like 12 episodes.
Yeah.
And then there's one bonus episode that they posted after they got discovered that it was fraud. Mm-hmm. And it was just like a little bit of a mea culpa, like a short mea culpa episode. So that's like the key to not get canceled.
Oh, you do a little we're sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just, about once every dozen episodes, you just say, by the way, this is all not true. And then you just go right back to what you're doing. That's just like, it's a little secret sauce.
You see, I see that completely differently. I look at this and think that's a great format. Come up with completely made up stories that sound absolutely real. That's perfect. I mean, they do it on television every day.
Yeah, and Art Bell made a career out of it for 30 years in radio.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know, that sounds like, if I had time, I'd probably put something fun together. I mean, I like doing live podcasts, but I am not averse to a huge sound design project. That'd be fun.
H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds.
That's the first thing that hit me is, oh my gosh, that's exactly what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Only And the beauty of War of the Worlds was they kept broadcasting that it was not real, and people didn't believe it. They just think it's real, or they didn't hear it, or whatever. Selective hearing, selective memory.
Wow, that's a lot like the media now.
Yes, not much has changed at all, other than podcasting having a crosshairs on his back thanks to AP, which I could not be more delighted about.
Yeah, that's just like that's what I keep insert. You can insert that everywhere. You can just say when their headline reads, loophole allows misinformation, parentheses, like caliphate, unparentheses, to continue.
Yeah.
You just put that in anywhere.
Yeah. Well, food for thought.
Yeah.
So what have we been working on this week? There's been a lot of things flowing back and forth, and some of those I'm going to bring up with our guests today. We have two prominent figures from the podcasting. I'm going to say it, the podcasting space.
Oh, there's got to be a new.
Yes, no. One of our guests liked that word. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm just adapting. I'm code signaling. It's the space, man. It's the space. Let me see. Of course, there's some IPFS talk. We'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
I also have some things about some of the first phase of the namespace. What else has been going on? I thought there was one or two discussions on podcastindex.social.
Yeah, some people are starting to look into and play with the LNPay API. And,
yes, yeah. And I saw. I'm so happy this morning. I woke up and the first thing I check, because I want to be happy first thing in the morning, is I check podcastindex.social. And there's Martin. I've been on a Podfriend kick. It's really functional for me, especially on Graphene OS. And now he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm like, oh, man, I can't wait. Let me break it, please. Give me code. Let me try and break it for you, Martin. I love that.
It's coming.
I'm getting all, and I got PodStation up and working, which works with a node.
I couldn't figure out the macaroon thing. How did you get it says it has to be hex encoded.
Yeah.
When I downloaded my macaroon from Voltage,
yeah,
it's in just a binary format. And how did you get yours out of there?
If you go to, I think it's manual connect on Voltage, on your Voltage node, it has a hex value.
Oh, for the LNC, for LNCLI or something.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that.
And
because I tried to play with it.
It was phenomenal. And then this is where I got into mempool stuff. So I set up. I'll set up a little test wallet just for my purposes over at Voltage, and I chose a light node. Oh my God! And Graham and I have been working on this for 48 hours. This thing came up all spotty, and of course, I already transferred not much, but like $15-20 to it from my own wallet. But because it never came up properly, it had to shut down, and then it came back up again, and then it had to synchronize, and it was confused. And then here's the funny part. Since I'd done those transfers and tried to open a channel at a different day at a different time, the fee structure was really, really low at that particular moment. So when this node came back up and the verification process started, my payments were still sitting there at a very low fee, so they weren't being picked up and they weren't being transferred. I've been waiting, 17 hours for a channel to open that's trying to go at two sats per V-byte or something. I'm learning this stuff. I'm like, wow, this is so genius the way it was put together.
So you're the transaction that you initially funded the node with, your on-chain transaction.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And this is where I learned the RBF. So you can replace your bid because it's just sitting in your own little mempool space.
Oh, I thought you said resting bitch face. I thought this was weird.
That's what it should be called, because that's the look I have while trying to figure this out.
Okay.
That's funny. I don't think I didn't make that connection myself.
That's replaced by fee.
Yeah.
Replaced by fee or something like that?
Yeah. So, and then you do the exact same amount of Satoshis and then the higher fee, and it replaces it essentially. Okay. Although that's what that story was about, the FUD story, that it now you had basically two payments waiting to go, and it picked up the one with the lower fee. And I don't know, the story was convoluted, but I was listening to I think Tales from the Crypt. Then Marty held my hand. I understood it after that.
Okay.
Anyway. Okay. So now that's some hot Bitcoin Lightning LND talk. Maybe just be LND. LND love. LND love here on Podcasting 2.0.
Yeah, Jingle Time. I think. Well, did you get it ever sorted out? Did you get that finished? The light node?
Well, so then I was trying to bump the channel up. And I wasn't having a lot of success because I have to do that with LNCI from my own node. And I was able to connect, but it's all JSON that's being returned. So my eyes are going, what?
Yeah. That's not helpful.
So no, I haven't figured it. But, it's I've been just working with Graham, and it's been fun because I'm learning about how this stuff works. And I'm learning, moreover, because I'll be setting up a node for Max Kaiser and Stacy Herbert, who are all jacked. Mm-hmm. And once we get our first scalable app integration, they want to start trying it. And there's a lot of Bitcoin people who will jump on that boat, man. I'll tell you.
Orange Pill
podcast. Yeah.
Okay, I've never heard it, but I know it exists. Yeah.
Well, they have two. One during the week where they're just kind of jamming together, and kind of it's kind of like a drunk party. Which, if you know Max and Stacey, is pretty funny. But then the other one, which I think is on Sundays, they have guests on, and it's highly philosophical. It's a high philosophy type conversation about
philosophical.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't get it out. So that's how highly philosophical I am.
Yeah.
No, but it's good. It's interesting people, and they talk about really the whole concept of Bitcoin and the freedom it provides versus the existing system. It's fascinating. This movement is so interesting to me. I'm happy to be swept up in it, delirious as I am.
I did a Bitcoin presentation at work a while back.
Now, Eric said Eric the Shill said he saw. Did you send me that video and slides of you doing that?
No, I don't think I sent it to you. It had some proprietary stuff from our company in it, but I'll send it to you privately.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that.
But so we were talking about it, and I was just explaining how everything worked. And part of what came up in the presentation was all the institutional investors that are getting in now, like Mass Mutual bought like $100 million, and
really,
just like
Mass Mutual. I didn't even know that part. No.
Yeah, they bought $100 million in Bitcoin. And there's a lot of institutional investment now going into it, so it's going to be really hard
to shut it
pull
down.
That back.
Yeah, the genie's out of the bottle. Bitcoin's just suck. When you suck in the institutionals, it gets really interesting, and then we'll get a what is that? What is that kind of tradable fund,
like an ETF.
ETF, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, we'll get ETFs. That's what everyone I think has been waiting for. I don't know much about that.
I don't either.
But that's all I know is we can send little bits of money and value from one person to the other in a seamless fashion, in a timed fashion. So there was that. What else was there?
Well, there's a bunch. I mean, we talked about some namespace stuff, and there was another discussion going on about the sort of trying to come up with a universal link structure.
Yeah,
like
explain that to me. Thank you for bringing that up. I saw that. I tried to focus on it. My eyes glazed over. What exactly is it, and what is the benefit? Which I think someone asked. Why are we doing this?
Well, there's two. You could look at it two ways. You could say there's a sort of a universal link that would just say somehow to trigger whatever your default podcast player is on your device. But then the other type of thing, then what was really the focus was how a universal link structure for how to address a particular episode and timestamp. So that you could say whether or not it's pod friend, pod station. Yeah,
you can just do question mark T equals and then number of seconds. So I like the idea of the universal link structure for so that it'll open up. Your app will know what to do with it.
Right, and that would require OS support, which I'm not aware of any OSs that support it. Maybe somebody else knows, but I don't think that exists yet. And, you know, something like, you know, podcast : / whatever the, you know, hypercatcher / blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So something like that.
But does that mean that every host has to now name their file? Like that would be a hosting company thing?
No, that would just be a link. It would just be a link recognition inside the OS. So there's no, like, a protocol scheme. You're basically registering a new protocol scheme with the OS.
I see.
Yeah, but there's that side of it, which is interesting. And then the, you know, just the other side of trying to figure out how to interop between apps. So like if Podverse has their shareable link structure, and then it's like each one has their own scheme. And if you could sort of universalize that, it may make interop easier between apps.
But you need buy-in from the two platforms.
Yeah, on both areas you need buy-in.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just it's one of those sort of tangential things, not really index or namespace related, but just more so like, hey, this is a problem that's kind of universal to everybody, and can we make a solution for it?
So how do you propose that to the OS? So I presume it's Apple, Google, and Windows, not Microsoft.
Yeah, that would be your three. Yeah.
How do you propose that?
I think you just somehow, you know, express the need for it.
Oh, you mean like a namespace for podcasting? Okay, sounds like that. Just okay. Hey, we have a need for this. They're not going to do shit for us.
Well, moving on. Next topic. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I have no clue. I mean, on IPFS support, it took, God, how many years to get an IPFS protocol handler to be recognized by Chrome? It's in Chrome. It's not even in there. It doesn't function yet, but it's in Chromium. But Brave finally sort of activated it on their side.
Well, I think there's a number of reasons for this. Certainly, why certain companies who benefit from selling services are apprehensive about that. And maybe this is a good time to bring in our guests. It won't be the first question. I'll pop at them. But it certainly should come up. These are two guys who have been a part of podcasting for a very long time, since the beginning. I remember them. Have supported Podcast Index and Podcasting 2.0. Nice guys all around, and have just been certainly a part of my life tangentially throughout the podcasting and in the podcasting space for the past 16 years. Please welcome from Blubrry Podcasting, its founder, Todd Cochrane, and customer support manager, Mike Dell. And let me unmute both of these guys.
What's up, guys?
In the morning. How you doing?
In the morning to you, Todd.
Yeah, thanks for having us on your board meeting. This is awesome.
Well, we love having guests at the board meeting.
It's now a bunch of old guys and me.
Yeah, please. Damn. Shut up, Dave.
Adam, you know what? It's true.
Well, sadly, it is. You're my age, aren't you, Todd? You're about the same age?
Yeah, same age.
And I'm a little younger than you guys.
Okay. So you're
55 on Monday.
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
We're all up there. Maybe we should just start a little bit with the history of Blubrry. It's been around for a long time. It's a staple. I mean, I would say if you ask anybody, there's a couple names that come to mind about podcast hosting companies, and Blubrry's always there. Probably also, I think the name has always been intriguing, as irritating as I find it to have to add that to every dictionary on every device I've ever owned. Tell me about the pain. Tell me about the name, Todd. I don't know if we even know this the reason behind this.
Well, the history of the company really started when I had gotten an ad deal with GoDaddy, and they asked, did I know any other podcasters that wanted to advertise in podcasts? And I said, well, I need help. So I formed a business. Basically, the people that just formed the company with me came from my audience. So I basically said, I need a lawyer, I need a biz dev, I need a programmer, graphics guy, and found those guys on the show. And we started the company together. And the company's actual name is raw voice, but no one knows that.
I did know that, of course.
Yeah. My paycheck, Mike's paycheck says raw voice on it. But really what happened is we launched part of our first initiative. We launched a site called Podcaster News, and it was basically trying to be like short snippets of podcasts from different cities.
It's coming back to me. Yeah. I remember this.
And that was, one of those spitballs you throw on the wall that didn't work.
What year was that?
That was 2005.
Okay. And now, I remember you wrote a book, maybe 2 books. Did I cooperate on that? Did I talk to you?
You did? You provided me. As a matter of fact, I was pulling some of those notes out yesterday.
Let me tell you. I remember in the beginning, so at a certain point, everybody was calling me about a book.
Yeah.
And I think I said no to almost everybody, and they want 4 words. I'm like, I'm not interested. I got other things to do. I really appreciate it, but just go do your book. The story is well known. Did we talk in person, on the phone, or email?
It's email. So I have, I've got some emails back and forth.
Well, we might as well dive into this right now, because I don't know what you children are doing, but you're making a mess of my podcasting 2.0 with your looking backwards crap. Let's settle this once and for all. What's going on?
Someone claimed that podcasting's 20 years old.
Yeah.
I think the concepts go back for late 2000, and then the conversation you had with Dave. So the other Dave.
All right. So the controversy here, since I think we don't have to go too deep into it, but the controversy is that Pod News published kind of a republish of I think it was Dave Weiner's blog post about the history of podcasting, and which the history of the genesis technically you could say it goes back to the invention of TCP/IP, which is what a lot of people do when it comes to the history of something.
Yeah.
But it does go back to 2000, based upon a concept that I had. So Pod News I thought it was more like tongue in cheek, like, hey, it's actually 20 years of podcasting. Congratulations. And when you're dealing in text and people are publishing articles, and you can read it with whatever intonation you want. I thought most of it was kind of in jest. But did you take offense to that because you wrote the history of podcasting? You wrote the book. Did you find that was? What was your? You pushed back on him, I would say.
Yeah, the only thing I pushed back on was my definition of when podcasting truly started is when you had a desktop, and you know all about this, a desktop software application, which would read an RSS feed with an enclosure, automatically download that media and sync it to a media device, and all the creators and people that came into the space as a result of that. That's where I kind of drew the line as the basic start of podcasting. But we know, and I have acknowledged, and I give full credit to Dave and you and everyone else, that the idea and the enclosure tag discussion happened 2001. And what's new, and as a matter of fact, what is new of this morning is there was some inclination made that Dave had made a podcatcher back in 2001, and I'm thinking, this is news to me. Now, I know he had done stuff in Userland and included it there and did some test stuff, but I had never heard that he built a podcatcher in 2001. The iPod came late 2001, and there was really nothing else.
All right, I'll give you the story. All right, and the last time I'm going to do it.
Lay it down.
And then we're all going to stop.
Sounds good.
In 2000, I was in Amsterdam. And this part of the story is important. At the same time, it's kind of funny because this part of the story is completely obsolete. The whole idea behind this subscription podcast or the subscription content delivery is obsolete. But this is how it came to be. I had a cable modem in Amsterdam, which meant we had always-on computing. That was being sold as such. You didn't have great bandwidth, but you had always-on computing. So you didn't have to dial in with your modem. And there was no experience for video. We had QuickTime video, but just a short little, we didn't really have great codecs. And before you knew it, a video of a couple minutes could be 100 megabytes. And that would take, that could take 5 or 10 minutes or even longer to download. So and I was only looking at video, although Napster had my attention, that came up around the same time, which was also an artifact of always on computing. So it wasn't a spiffy, slick, fast system, but people's computers were on, so at least you'd initiate downloads of content that you wanted. So, but even then, there's no experience. We had real audio, real video, which was very questionable quality, and you had to license it, and you couldn't just start up. And I considered that I wrote an essay about this called "The Last Yard," and the idea was you had something running on your computer, which was now always on by default, that would be looking for a piece of content that you want, media, and because you're asking it to pay attention to it, which would be a subscription. And if it sees it, it would download it, and it would not notify you, the user, until it was downloaded. So therefore, you remove the entire wait. You don't know it's happening, so it doesn't really matter. When you watch the news, you're watching video from earlier in the day or 5 weeks ago. It doesn't really matter when it was produced. It's the moment when it's presented. And so Dave had Radio Userland, which I was interested in because I'm a very bad developer. I can't even call myself a duh. That's how bad I am. And he had a proprietary scripting language, and I was trying to figure that out. But I knew that this could be built somehow with something like this. And I tried to explain it to him. I don't think he appreciated me in general, like some a-hole Hollywood guy. What is he doing here trying to tell me what to do? I went back the next day. I flew to New York specifically for this and met Dave the next day. He had thought about it. I explained it again. I had done a little mock-up in his application, Radio Userland, to show how it would work. And he said, okay, I get it. I'm going to put this in. I'll show you how, but I'll only do it if you promise to never, ever touch my software again. So, okay. Not too hard.
Where are we at in the timeline now?
This is 2000. I'm still in New York. And he was, at that moment, Radio Userland used RSS 0.92, I guess. Just for, and Userland, it was called Radio Userland, which appealed to me because you could broadcast and receive. It was a transceiver, so you could create a feed and had a whole aggregator structure, exactly like a podcatcher. On the back end, you could subscribe, you could unsubscribe, you could do a river, you could do all, you could segregate by individual feed, all of that, and it worked as a desktop app with a little server on your machine, and it just talked to the local host on 5.335 or something. So when that was implemented, that's when RSS 2.0 came to life, and with the enclosure tag. And we were sending, I was subscribed to his feed, he was subscribed to mine for years. And I'd wake up and there'd be a video file from something in New York. Now, to say that's not a podcatcher, we didn't have the iPod. We didn't have the name. But what we had is more of a movement. So even to say that any one individual is responsible is kind of bogus. I think in technology in general, because you can go back, I used to do cassettes and put them online, and I had an email. I mean, it's all a lot more of the same basic system. Is podcasting really that much different than an inbox, the way it's presented today? And so that's when the daily source code came out, because I needed to find developers who would create these dedicated applications called podcatchers.
But that was 3 years later.
Yeah, and that wasn't until I saw my first iPod. And that's when the Apple script came to life that just replicated what Radio Userland was doing with an extra trick, which is you download it and then you download it to iTunes, and then you triggered an update to the iPod. And of course, I couldn't make that scale. It was just a script that would, run and look at one feed. And so that's when I was like, oh shit, well, I have this feed. Let me get out there and start talking about it. And I had a blog, which was pretty new at the time. So, and that's really how we built it. So
why the lag? Why the lag between the time that you talked?
Because I hadn't seen the iPod. When I saw the iPod, the light went on. The iPod had been around for a couple of years. The light went off. I'm like, oh, hold on a second, radio receiver. That's what triggered it for me. Now, specifically about podcasting, I disagree with pretty much everybody. I feel that a podcast does not have to be a show. It does not have to be what we're doing here. I feel a university professor who puts his lectures on a feed, that's a podcast. And I'm a little perturbed by and Dave, I think you don't even agree with me, but I think a podcast doesn't have to be a show. It can be something functional. It can be a book. It could be an album. It can be so many different things. We're stuck in a rut with the terminology.
Our plugin supports audio, PDF, video, because we know that the enclosure can be anything.
Correct.
Almost
correct.
anything.
So the issue is, I think the term podcasting is what throws everybody off, because the act of what people understand podcasting to be, not the technical system, the act of what people, so you could arguably say, because Dave was putting this one local public radio show onto a feed with enclosures. Now, he was doing this before there was an iPod. So also not a podcast. It was a radio show put in a feed with enclosures, does not get credited as the first podcast because there was no iPod. So it's really semantics as to when it was invented, when it happened. What I take credit for is coming up with the idea of the subscription with the delay, and at the time it was necessary because we didn't have the bandwidth. Now it really only functions, thank goodness, as an open protocol for people to organize podcasts. And that has turned out to be a very, very valuable tool.
Well, happy then to the 21st year in podcasting.
So it's, to me,
it's worse. It's worse than it appears.
Yeah, there's no date. That's what I'm saying. There's no
That's
date.
Right.
And to me, podcasting 2.0, we know when that started.
Right. I consider it a badge of honor to be chastised by Dave Weiner for how to not use his software or how to not program his software.
It was the start of an interesting relationship.
I don't know if there's actually a agreed upon definition of podcasting.
No, there is not. There is not, Mike, and that's my beef. It's like I see and part of it's not in our mission statement, which is preserve podcasting as a platform for free speech and retool podcasting as a platform of value for all. When you start a podcast to date, you still are not really official and you're not a podcast until Apple has approved you. And that part I never really focused on, but now it just really pisses me off. Anybody should be able to build a feed right now and have it in all apps in 10 minutes. That's the way it should be. And that means that it can be, why isn't it a reporter? A reporter who is uploading little bits, that everybody can, it's very easy. It's a very efficient system. Like, okay, got a new feed. Boom, here we go. Here's my interviews. They're coming down the pipe, and they just publish them that way.
Well, Blubrry has a directory. What do y'all consider, like, how do y'all get your feeds, or how do you vet them and say, okay, this is something we will put in the directory? And let me give you more detail on what I'm saying, because what I've constantly trying to find there's this continuum between what you would call a podcast feed and what's just plain RSS. And so is it a podcast feed if an enclosure only shows up once every 75 posts? Or is it, I'm not even sure I want to host
as long as the enclosure's in because we're doing a podcast directory, we only show the posts that contain an enclosure. But yeah, it could be 75 in between 75 posts, and we will still update.
Yeah, as long as there's an active enclosure.
This is the thing that I'm so sad about, is that here we have this beautiful system, everything's in place, it's a beautiful API. Anybody can create an app that talks to this, I mean, even if I really set my mind to it, I'm sure I could steal enough frameworks and codes to get something working. But everyone is stuck in the same show mentality. Where is my university lecture app?
Well, see, that I don't have a problem. Like, that's fine to me.
No, but no one does it. No one does it. We're still working in the words of, and for obvious reasons, of broadcasting. I have a show. There's so much opportunity out there. It doesn't have to be everything. The apps, the way the hosting companies function, it's all built around the concept. The words that you see are making you build an entertainment or information show, not necessarily an information feed with items in there that can be distributed this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but Adam, just so you know, we do update if someone's got a PDF. It's not, we follow the letter of the law of what an enclosure is allowed.
You're missing my point. It's the interface that you use to create the tools, the interface you use to listen to podcasts is geared towards a Joe Rogan, NPR show type of model, and that's what it's portraying. It's never, I mean, okay, we'll take your PDF example. There could be an app that uses all the functionality of podcasting that only displays and has searchable, or let's say it has feeds of medical studies that are PDFs. Because no one builds an app for it, no one thinks of it, so the content is never created, where it's such a beautiful cancel culture proof system.
Right, they had the feed readers back in the day for blogs. It's the same sort of idea, except for you're using an enclosure rather than just the text of the RSS.
Exactly, and that was killed off by Google. Why? Well, obviously, they want to own your feed. Everything is a feed these days. Twitter, Facebook, everything's a feed.
When we tell people that they can put other things besides audio in their feeds, they're blown away. Most people don't know. So they don't even know they can do video podcasts, and I can get that call once a week.
Thank you. This is another one for me. It's like, holy crap. I mean, almost everyone's app does video. But do you know how many people are coming to me saying, when are you going to be able to do video? I'm like, it works right now. Yeah, but that's podcast. Yeah. So the words are important. If you want to have a video site, you got to build it with the YouTube, Rumble, Vimeo type language.
Yeah, well, there's apps out there. A lot of these newer commercial podcast apps don't do video.
Right.
Oh my goodness, there's an even better reason to do it. What the heck, people? And with streaming, a web app, easy. He said with his developer hat on.
and then I'll throw the business owner hat on when I tell them it's probably going to cost them more, because that's true bandwidth. You hardly use
a lot of it.
And there's a true. Now I know you got a solution for that, but there is there is a cost, because of that bandwidth.
No, you walked into my trap. That's not. I have no solutions. You walked into my trap. I did. So IPFS, the Interplanetary file system. This thing has been in my life, I think, for 8 years. Dave and I have been playing with it way before Podcast Index, and we've seen it work. We understand how it works. Now we had it came back on the radar, even though it's been discussed at podcastindex.social for a while, came back on the radar with the brave integration of IPFS. So you can just use the IPFS hash and it will find the file. So, IPFS has never really picked up in the mainstream, and I think it's for business reasons. I'm not sure, but when I look at IPFS and think, wow, what can we do with the hosting companies to either lower your cost by distributing the load, B, give you more things that you can offer your customers, or C, both. Because it feels to me like it's possible, and I wonder if you've looked at the use case and what you've come up with from your standpoint.
I just brought the website up, and I'll be honest with you, anything that will allow me to not have to pay my bandwidth bill via a bank transfer versus a credit card gets my attention. So, but if we also think about IPFS, I'm going to investigate it. I don't know anything about it until now, but Adam, we used to do our podcast distribution via BitTorrent too.
I still have BitTorrents of my shows published, and this comes down to my next question, which is really something I've seen being brought up for over a decade, and I've never seen a resolution or understood, and I don't know if it's just something that someone needs to kick it over and do it. How do we handle the concept of multiple enclosures? Yeah, well, this is the big question, and maybe I can be an arbiter somehow. But why is this not universally done?
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard for the app. I think I have an answer to that, because, like, okay, for instance, when we wrote the Freedom Controller, I gave it support from the very beginning for multiple enclosures, even though I think Weiner said it's not. I think he's always said that was not part of the spec, and he's
always said namespace.
Yeah, and so, but I read the spec over and over again, and I just couldn't see where it didn't allow it in the language. And so I said, well, we'll support multiple enclosures on the aggregator side, and then we'll also support it on the production side. And for just a river of news, it works fine. But on a podcast app, it can get a little wonky, and I think people are just not sure how to handle that.
Well, what happens with a lot of the podcatchers is if you have multiple enclosures, some of them will pick the first one, some of them will pick the second one or the last one. It's never, you can never, know what, the app itself is going to pull.
And when you say that, Mike, do you really mean you don't know what Apple's app is going to do?
Well, it could be, Apple or whatever. Apple always does the first one, I think, if there's multiples. But yeah, I get that all the time. People have these feeds they create, and they have, an MP3 file and a photo and something else in it. And it, works on some apps and doesn't work on others, or totally crashes some apps.
Personally, I'll take
Blubrry has multiple enclosure support. Like, you can put multiple in the same feed item, like episode.
No, we don't support that, that was a decision that we made because of basically following what everyone else was doing. Apple and everyone else. So we had to build, I guess, for a better reason, to make sure that our podcasters' episodes were getting into the various directories. But at the same point, I'm of the opinion, and probably be opposite of your guys's, is that I think multiple enclosures in a single RSS feed or single episode item is bad. And the reason I think that is I like to be able to brand my content differently between video and audio or any other content. So I want separate feeds. Now, I could do both, I guess, but I think, Adam, this argument was going on in 05, 06 on the enclosure stuff.
It was, and I'm going to side with Dave Weiner on this one because I witnessed that close up, and I want to respect what he did and did not want. And there's another thing that was going on then, but to me,
was he for single, or was he okay with multiple?
No, single, and he says if you want to do more. Well, there were two arguments at the time. One was the multiple enclosures, and the other was where the show notes go, which he also said namespace.
Yeah.
And so for me, I want to respect that, because we know what to do. To me, I see a much bigger picture. And here would be my example. And I'm just going to use IPFS because it works. So you have in the namespace an IPFS enclosure hash.
Wait. You need some hot namespace talk. I mean, we're talking about namespaces.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
What are you doing?
Yeah, baby.
And now it's time for some hot namespace.
Oh yeah, I want to add something to your namespace, baby.
Get my cigarettes.
Yeah, baby. I would have an IPFS tag. It would be the hash for an enclosure, and that would, I would say, be something that would be a follow-up to the value for value payments being integrated. The way I see it if I have a podcast app that supports both payments and IPFS, I would consider getting a piece of the action based upon me also hosting the file. And maybe that happens in the app I'm using.
Oh, you're paying for you're allowing anybody to host that content.
Yeah, so I'm
for you.
Yes, so I'm conflagrating two things, but to me, in general, the IPFS as an enclosure, to me, it seems like throw that in the namespace, because otherwise we're just going to argue for 10 more years, and Apple's not going to do it, and no one's going to do it. And look how far we've gotten just by putting in one shunt, really, which is podcasterwallet.com. The shunt waiting for people like, Blubrry to add stuff to their authoring tools before people can add data into their feed. Why wouldn't we do exactly the same with IPFS? It's going to be a small group anyway that's testing it initially. But I think, again, here's a use case that we can present at scale to the IPFS community.
I like it. It decouples the tool. It decouples the tools from the burden of doing the hosting, because I think the value of Blubrry and the podcast hosting is the tools that you bring. It's not the pipe. I mean, because
I agree, and
you can, because anybody can just buy bandwidth somewhere. It's mostly that Blubrry provides.
However,
and the consulting to go with it.
Yep, we're very fortunate to have two guys in the business here, and I want to hear Todd with his business hat on. What are the downsides? Because I think immediate is stats. That may become an issue. Am I correct?
Stats may not. Well, there may be a way around the stats, but then we're talking about, well, there's two ways to do it: to have some sort of redirect reporting that carries along with that link, or some sort of ping back. But that's a whole nother lengthy discussion.
How about in general the concept of implementing something like this, which could theoretically lower your actual overhead?
Yeah, that's always something that I would definitely look at. Now, here's the thing: we're just like any other company. I'm going to throw this over to Angelo, and he's going to go, oh, "Are you kidding?" And I'm like, well, if I can save you $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month in bandwidth, is this worth a month of dev time? And that answer is probably yes. But again, you can't just be the sole player in the block. You got to have wide adoption in order to scale this thing.
Well, what do you think? And I'm glad you brought up Angelo, because I appreciate him getting involved in the namespace on GitHub. He's already changed some directions on a few things that have been very helpful. And one of the things, like from that standpoint, what do you when y'all decide to implement a tag? I know that for the most part, it's like you have to figure out what's the balance, what's the trade-off between spending all this time doing it and how much bang for the buck it's going to have. Like what's your thinking process on where to? So the reason I'm bringing this up is something like there's a tag proposal that's not been put into a phase yet. There's a tag proposal for something called alternate enclosure, which would allow you to have multiple enclosures, and some of them be low bandwidth versions and that kind of thing. I mean, like when you see something like that, what's the thought process there about where to prioritize something like that on a roadmap?
I think it really boils down to is who's paying our bills? Podcasters. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to help podcasters. We're trying to build things for them that will help them grow their show and grow their audiences. That's our number one goal. Of course, we'll provide tools too, but I think that we have to look at, I'm going to throw a big word out there: user personas. Every company has user personas, specific types of people that use your service. And then we have to say, will this user persona use this or not? Will it benefit them? Or more importantly, has 500 people asked for this feature or have 3?
That's what I was going to say. If we have podcasters saying, hey, how come you haven't implemented that? And I can prove that, hey, we got a lot of customers or potential customers that want this. that'll move it up in the stack.
Yeah, to move it up. We have to weigh that. It's hard.
What would you say that your user persona is? I mean, I know some are more like corporate podcasting. What is your sort of bread and butter?
Oh, bread and butter is people that own their own .coms using WordPress with our PowerPress plugin. That is one. That's a core.
Yeah, I always like to say it's the guy sitting next to the water heater in the basement doing a show or doing a podcast.
And that's true too. Independent podcasters, largely businesses too, but mostly, if you look at just the customer type or the podcaster type, it's a business guy, individual that has a website.
Tell me about the PodPress plugin. What functionality does it provide? Does it tap into your API, or is it creating the feed on its own and just uploading that and the file to your servers? How does that interop?
Yeah, PowerPress will work standalone without us. Blubrry could turn the switch off today and PowerPress would continue and work. But it is integrated so that if you're hosting with us, you can essentially upload your media file right within the podcast post in WordPress. And it's, I always use the term create, upload, and publish, and you don't leave your own dashboard. But it does. It creates an RSS feed for them. So they own their RSS feed at their .com.
Mm-hmm.
There is API calls that go back and forth, and of course the stats integration.
Okay, if I own a WordPress site and I use PowerPress, I'm uploading the enclosure file to you guys, but then everything else is being hosted locally on my domain, and then y'all also can do some stats off that too.
With the disclaimer, if you don't want to host with us, you can drop a link in the, you can drop a media link in it as well and publish.
It's hosting, so we don't agnostic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's a great way to decentralize, because that's great, and it's more complicated though.
Is PowerPress? I don't see them on our apps page. Are they doing any of the namespace?
Matter of fact, it's in this current sprint. Lock is going in on this sprint. So
let me ask you this, and I hope I'm not offending you. I'm just I have to ask it because I've had businesses. So if you have PowerPress and perhaps Castapod and a couple others, and I can tell you the future that I personally see. But so what if PowerPress, as an example, there's an alternate enclosure. They have IPFS, both their feed and IPFS works, and it works with a number of apps, because it will. There's always going to be a couple of devs who will put it in. Does that threaten your business, or do you have thoughts about how to, what your USP is in that case towards those types of customers?
No, I don't think that threatens our business. Again, we build tools podcasters need. So if IPFS becomes a viable piece, and I don't see any, again, we're going to talk about it as a team, but at this same point, the alternate enclosure piece, that one might be harder to get through the chop chain, because, we've been, as long as it's in a different item, but it won't be, that's an interesting, I have to run that through the CPU a little bit. But
I think that particular tag falls into the category of, there's always the chicken and egg thing. That's who implements the tag first, the podcast app, or the podcast producer. And you're not some tags, you feel so confident in them, in their use case, that as an app, or as a host, you'd say, well, that makes a lot of sense. But then other tags, it's like, well, it may be a really good idea, but I'm just not sure I want to commit to that. And so you have to wait, then it becomes sort of an app first thing. So it's always like, well, is it going to be chicken first or going to be egg first? And I think it's different for every tag.
Right.
I have a hard time prioritizing something for 3%. And unfortunately, 3% is what leads the way in developing new trends that the rest of the folks adopt. So, I'll either be on the train or off the train, and I'll be looking at the train leaving me, going down the track, and I may be like cussing at myself for not putting that as a dev priority. But yeah, it's a hard juggle. It really is.
You have
Blubrry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Blubrry's unique in that we also have 3 different feed generation systems. We got PowerPress. We've got a traditional publisher system, just like, any of the rest of them. And then we also have a feed burner replacement called Podcast Mirror, which is another way to feed. So when we implement something, we got to implement it in 3 places.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Now, what is the API? Blubrry has an API. Can you do all of the functions through an API?
You can do about 90% of the stuff through the API. There's publishing, stats, pulling, all of that. We've got a pretty robust API, including the directory has an API too.
So if I was Martin, Martin's one of my favorite developers. I'm hooked on the Podfriend. If I was Martin or any one of our fabulous developers, this is how I would think. And Blubrry would fit in this scenario perfectly. When I create a Word document, I do it in Microsoft Word. Then I do all my formatting and whatever, and then I save it, and then I send that file. In many cases, you can do it interactively, you can share it, but I send that file to Dave. Dave opens it in Word or something that understands Word, and he can enjoy that and read it as I created it, and he can even change it and save it any way he wants. I would have a podcast app that allows the podcaster to use the same interface. I know how crazy it sounds, but use the same app that I'm creating my podcast in. And why wouldn't I be able to talk? Technically, I can. I can get an account with Blubrry, and then just say I'm with Blubrry, and this app could be my. It could be my WYSIWYG podcast editor, because I would see how everything looks. I see, there would be a preview function, of course, and I can. All right, I see my transcript is showing, the images are working, and the chapter files. I got everything all set up. Go, done. One app. And
we have,
Go ahead.
And we do have some folks that have integrated with us. Hindenburg, basically, and they do a very basic integration.
I have Hindenburg, so I can do that straight from Hindenburg.
Yeah, they can send. You can send the audio file you've created directly to our platform. So you can't do the publishing, but you can send that media file to us and skip the step of uploading it. Hindenburg does that.
Well, I think it's cool because you have that idea is neat, because then you see it with Hypercatcher. You have
exactly
that app.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're creating the chapters. Yeah, you're creating the chapters in the same app that you listen in.
Yeah, the next step for him is so that you can approve those chapters in the app as well, instead of going to a back end.
Well, that's Anchor's whole model is download the app. You can record on your phone and just upload it straight to your profile, to your hosting account. It's like that would be if somebody could do that with Blubrry as well. If you had let's just say Hypercatcher integrated with Blubrry, record on your phone and upload straight to your Blubrry account. Yeah. You're doing it in the same app. You never leave the podcast app.
And you could actually, if someone built the interface, they could actually publish right there. Just hit publish, and it's live.
Now, the danger there, of course, is that if IPFS catches on, then you might have 15 competitors overnight who have file storage built into their tool.
Yeah, but you already support y'all already supported BitTorrent. So and that was because it just seems to be about the tools and the user experience more so than just the raw who hosts the file.
Yeah, that's a good question. What really are the main features of a podcast hosting company, and what do people respond to when you do your marketing, and what do they come to you for? What are the features that they want?
Well, that's what we build to, and it's all about serving that customer need. And our marketing pitch is not much different than any other podcast host. We provide podcast hosting with tools and services to publish and distribute your show, along with giving them the ability to get a free WordPress site. There's the pitch, come get a 30-day free trial, blah blah blah.
Well, you also do your consultation, which I think you should not underestimate. That's a big part of it, is it not?
Yeah, and of course we talk, and one thing is also that's kind of special about our tool is we build in network tools. So podcasters that build networks, they can build a network right in PowerPress.
Cool.
We've got sites that are running 600 podcasts on a single WordPress install. Imagine that. I don't know what kind of a beast of a server that's running on.
I didn't know that. That sounds pretty cool.
It is cool. And they're using taxonomy. So,
hey, Mike, as customer support. Can I change your title?
Yeah, as long as it comes with a raise.
How about? No, you got a VP. You got a VP title. Yes,
SVP.
Instead of customer support manager, how about customer success affiliate?
Oh, I like that.
Let's just not do the ninja and Sherpa crap anymore.
No, that's right. Customer success affiliate.
So Adam, we got sidetracked earlier. Did you want to know the origin story of Blubrry? How we got the name?
Of course.
So Raw Voice had this, basically had a phrase. It's called Raw Voice New Organic Media. So when Podcaster News, the website, failed, we were sitting in a resort in Chicago in February. Yes, that's oxymoron.
Great retreats.
And great retreats. Sitting around trying to decide what this new site was going to be called. And I don't know how we got on it. It was during the .com era when no one was using vowels, and Fresh Organic Media somehow transferred to Blubrry, and that's how. Because you remember, right in those early days, you couldn't use the word podcast without worry about getting sued. We would have called ourselves a podcast hosting company.
No one ever got sued over it, did they?
No, they didn't. But there are some apps had gotten some heat, so that's where we were worried about using podcast in the name. It's all dumb now, but that was what was going on.
And didn't we have Raspberry with no E's?
Oh yeah, we had all plans for. Matter of fact, we still have those domains. Raspberry. We're going to put super celebrities like Adam on and different people like that. It was all kinds of crazy ideas.
Yeah, I remember when we were doing Dave Liner's World Outline. I remember I fired up a site to clone that over, and it was WRLD. Outline. You just drop the vowel and you're all of a sudden you're web 2.0.
That's right, and put a .io after it and you're really groovy.
Oh yeah. Then you got VC money.
You guys do some advertising services as well?
It's not a primary part of our business, but we do. Deals come in. We get IOs all the time and RFPs, and we respond to them. And tell you. Adam, the 90% of podcasters today still aren't getting any advertising. Zero.
Oh, I wouldn't expect them to. I wouldn't. It's like the promise of blogs. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Did y'all see that Verge article about Anchor? Like almost all of their podcasters are getting house ad money. $8,000 for house ads. That's pretty interesting.
They're going to stop that, I heard.
Well, they'll have to eventually. They're bleeding dry. It's a weird circular motion.
Well, Spotify has unlimited cash, don't you know?
Yeah.
I think the limit is coming up.
Who's got the funky bell?
That's me. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I couldn't identify it. I was like, hey, is it this one? No, it's not. No, it's not that one. Hey, you're with podcasters when you hear bells ringing. So I get a tip for you. Maybe more for Mike than for Todd, or for both of you, because I have a customer for you. Or a lot of customers like this person, I think, will be coming. So Dana Brunetti, you ever heard of this name?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Dana Brunetti is a Hollywood guy who is anti-Hollywood. And we got to know him through the No Agenda show, as he's an executive producer. And we kind of found it because he put that credit on his IMDb page. And if you look at Dana Brunetti's IMDb page, he's the producer of The Social Network, of Captain Phillips, of House of Cards, 50 Shades of Grey, and 50 Shades of Grey, and 50,000 Shades of some more gray. So he's had a lot of success. And he called me the other day, and he said, Adam, I have an idea for Podcasting 2.0. And I want to know, is it possible today to use the chapters with the images rotating like you've shown us in with No Agenda and Podcasting 2.0 and MoFax and those shows? And I said, yeah. He said, okay, because we have a concept and we think we'll be producing several of these. And they kind of want to become a production house for this type of mixed media content. So I'm telling you this because if you were to focus on anything based upon customer demand, at least you can be on the lookout for that if and when it cranks up.
That chapters feature has me very interested, but I look at this also as a podcaster. I don't have time to do chapters. So how many podcasters, I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here, how many podcasters have time to put chapters in the show?
Well, that is depends on the system. So for a Hollywood guy who's producing stuff specifically, he'll take as long as he needs because that's what he's doing. I personally do not have time. Enter the beautiful world of Hypercatcher's community chapters. And I think this is the model, as far as I'm concerned, where you can have the community creating chapter marks. All you have to do is go in, take a look, and approve. It's basic moderation. That's working today. And in this case, I was also able to delegate that to Dreb Scott. Hello, Dreb, who is doing the chapters for this show as well. So that's kind of the beauty of podcasting, is there's always somebody. Look at SoundCloud. It's rarely the creator itself who's putting shit on the timeline. It's the audience. So I think that's where this feature is headed. So then what I'm saying to you is, maybe there's not a single podcaster, but I do know one, and one who has pretty big influence. So just be on the lookout if more people start looking for it.
So, Adam, does that community source chapters is real cool. You're doing it. Mm-hmm. Does your feed then dynamically update?
Yeah.
Or how?
Ooh. Hold on a second. Let's do it again. Let's make sure you understand how it works.
Now it's time for some hot namespace talk.
That's right, baby. Come over here, Todd. Snuggle up and let me show you how we do this here. So it's in the namespace. The chapters file calls for a URL to a JSON file, and so that JSON file can update whenever it's ready to update, and it flows right through the minute someone loads the podcast. It is unbelievably beautiful to do that after the fact. It is so cool.
Play that song again. That is a sexy namespace.
That's right. It's got to integrate
and now
that.
It's time for some hot
Put it in.
namespace.
Come on, Todd, stick it in the namespace.
Now that's good that can be done that way, because that's the only way that people have time. I could have a producer come in later and spend an hour on that instead of having to do it when I was producing the show.
There's a lot of there's a lot of podcasters that do it and they bake it into the MP3, in the ID3.
Right.
Yeah, not
stuff.
dynamic.
Yeah, and it's like there's the only ones of those. I don't know how big a percentage that is. I could name probably 5 off the top of my head that I know that are bigger podcasts, and they're also the guys that don't seem to mind doing a lot of stuff in post. But then, but then you got your other, most people are not going to have time to sit there and go through all that.
Well, but here's the beauty, Dave, and this is what the flow is so phenomenal with Hypercatcher, because Dreb was listening to the show anyway, so he just listens to the show and he says, "Oh, that's cute," and he just taps right on the app he's using, click, and then he can write a little note or a message, whatever it is, title, the full title, URL, and then he goes into the back end, and then he'll either expand on them, add an image or whatever. But it's in real time. While anyone's listening, they can create a chapter. And it's fun because Phone Boy, who does the No Agenda quotes, he started using Hypercatcher to add things that he likes, which go into his No Agenda quotes database, but now they're also in the chapter timeline. So it becomes a really wealthy experience.
Yeah, you can see this. Once this show gets released, you'll see like slowly over the period of, a day or two, the chapters will just get added.
And in Podfriend, in the episode, and this is, oh my God, thank you, Martin. You go to the episode and right there in the transcript, which is another one of my favorite tags, you can search. So when you say, hey, what did you say? What did that guy say on Thursday? You go to the episode, you type in the search, boom, it pulls out the transcript, which also can be added later on.
Devil's advocate for podcast listeners. I'm an avid listener, but most of the time I bring it up on my phone, I hit play, I stick the thing in my pocket. I'm not looking at my device while I'm playing. So
of course
I don't see any of that stuff.
Of course not. You've not been trained for this at all. There was no reason to.
I'll tell you when I pull it, when I pull my phone out and look at it, I can always tell, once as a podcaster, once you get used to the fact that you're going to have that stuff in there, you trigger your audience.
Exactly.
And it's like, because I know, like, if something funny gets said on the show, I know that I can probably pull out the phone and there may be some, something about it on the chat, because the chapter can contain either text, a URL to a site.
You know what we need to be able to do next?
Image.
We need to be able to trigger a haptic.
Oh, like burp. Yeah.
But that's exactly it. On No Agenda, when we're reviewing the art, we'll talk about the art that didn't make it into the album art competition, and that's rotating as we speak. So the number one place people will see this, I guess, when there's integration, is CarPlay and Android Auto or whatever it's called, because you'll just see it switch right on the screen.
You'll be able to almost. This is just a way. My mind's sitting here spinning. Obviously, this is a way to build engagement. It's a way to build.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, people are going to race to be the one to submit something to get that call out on the show. You could even gamify this and say, okay, the first 5 people that mention this, gets a gift card or something. But
or Dreb Scott does such a good job with our chapters that we put him into the payment split. He now gets 5% of every episode.
It's also hilarious. He's adding a third dimension. When the other day when we were talking about donations being low, he put the sad puppy in. It's like, oh man, he added a punchline.
Yeah,
that's really powerful. And if there's one thing I've heard over and over again, we've got to get community either comments or chat or something where you can talk about the show cross app. And it's coming. I know where it's coming from, but this is where podcasting is behind. Is the YouTube community, and then we have Clubhouse, which, by the way, I would not advise anybody. Don't build your career on Clubhouse. That's not going to last. Clubhouse is going to get deplatformed.
Yeah, we have a running pool to see when they disappear.
Can I get in on that?
It's not in a Blubrry internal pool, just so we know.
No, this has nothing to do with Blubrry.
I mean, like, to me, and I had a conversation with Sam Sethi about this, because he was talking about using Clubhouse, and I was like, I just don't think it's going to survive beyond the exclusivity period. I mean, if it's only people only want it right now, but it's like TED Talks, it's exclusive, and it feels like you're in. You're getting access to the private people. But once that goes,
there's all kinds of cancelable stuff going on there. Once you can speak freely somewhere, it ends.
Instead of 500 rooms, when there's 10,000 or 100,000, then they've got another issue as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's not cheap.
Well, there's that. Yeah, there's that. Yeah. So, how much to buy you guys? I know you're thinking about it, so let's set a price now.
We're saving up.
Yeah,
we're saving up.
You're saving up. Well,
we have a couple options at this point. So
you come to me with a decent 7-figure number, we can have a great discussion.
Wouldn't you want to cash out? I mean, you've been doing this. You've been doing this for so long. Wouldn't you want to cash out at some point? I mean, and by the way, I mean that very sincerely. I don't give a shit who you sell to.
Sure.
I'm just
Adam.
asking.
Any company you build is built to be acquired. So,
that's interesting.
Yeah, any company you build is built to be acquired, and if we ever are presented an offer, one thing, I'll be honest with you though, I'm a little bit of a purist. We're going to make sure that if we ever do sell, it's going to be someone that takes care of the independent podcaster community. We don't want to. We really have. I'm an independent podcaster, so this is what the company was built on. So I've got a real affinity towards that group, and I don't ever want them to leave them hanging.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I can see. I think that's something that's maybe unique to the podcast hosting industry. Is there's, of course, not all of them, but the ones that have been around for a long time seem to, like Blubrry, seem to have a more purist idea. It's like, well, I mean, because I think most of them, like you guys, were podcasters to begin with, and so it's like, well, I mean, we don't want to screw over the next generation, so to speak.
we're on this show because we believe in open podcasting.
Yeah.
Well, it is a vow of poverty, and it is a struggle, and I appreciate that because I know exactly what it takes. No, I do. I mean, building the value for value model, I ate my airplane. It takes a while to build these things.
But I think that's often missing, Adam. You put in your time, you put in your licks, you build an audience, you put hard work in.
Yeah.
I got people call me 3 episodes in. How come I can't make money yet?
Yeah,
I get that all the time in customer support. They'll call me and say, "Hey, I just put out my 3rd episode. Where's the ad deals?"
Right.
Well, I think that's where podcasting 2.0 can, like with the namespace and everything, you can, when you have new features finally, that's the thing. You could take a podcast and say, okay, well, this podcast is implementing chapter art or something like that, and it could be a new experience, and it could drive a little bit more engagement. And that's something that has not existed in the podcast space for a long time.
And here's a benefit that you might like. Transcript tag. I think I can sell this to you to implement this.
Oh, we're already sold on the transcript tag.
Okay, because ADA compliance is a huge deal, and the lawsuits are coming. So the quicker, then there's many informative podcasts that just have to be ADA compliant, and that means you have to have subtitles or transcript or something available for certain types of information.
I just realized I gave you the wrong number. 8 figures, not 7.
Okay.
Oh, I got excited.
I was already transferring Bitcoin to Dave. I'm like, shit, man, let's buy these fuckers. We can get them for a couple mil.
I was just like, that's that undergraduate math for you.
Hey, Dave, these guys are dumb. Let's go buy them.
Like, I'm looking in my wallet, thinking,
I'm like, man, I just got fired.
Well, so Mike, how many customers do you need to hear from before you kick something over to the dev team for a quote or for an estimate? I mean, is that 100 people? Is it 50? Is it 1,000?
It could be 2 or 3. I believe in it fully. So I've been pushing. Not pushing, but I realize we have to have, a need for it as far as, we can't just spend a lot of time doing this for the sake of doing it, I guess, is what I'm getting at. I don't know. But no, we're fully, I'm fully on board, and the more I hear from the higher up in the stack it can get, I'm sure. Right.
That's Mike at Blubrry.com, everybody. Go ahead and let Mike know what you want. He is your customer. He is your customer success affiliate.
And we have had those dreaded planning meetings to see where this fit in the dev schedule.
And I really appreciate that. I'm just an impatient, pushy bastard.
I know.
But
me too.
I really do appreciate it. No, I know. I mean, Dave and I are still friends after 10 years, so I figured out when to push and when not to.
What do y'all do? Private feeds? Are y'all in that game?
We do.
Yet?
Yeah,
okay.
We are. We just entered that this year.
Okay, so I've got a question involving that because this came up on the Mastodon this week.
Hold on a second. Here we go.
And now it's time for some
three times in one night. Oh my God, you're insatiable.
It's good because we're talking about private.
Private, dude.
On the podcast namespace, if you had just a simple tag that just said private, yes, no, just like, because here's the challenge that I've had this week is for an experiment, I turned on a script I've been working on for a while that takes all anytime the endpoint that says podcast by feed URL, if that misses and it says this URL doesn't exist in the database, I would say go through there and gather all those misses from the logs and then put them through, a bunch of checking and sanity and all that jazz, and then try to find stuff we're missing by scraping out of the logs things that people wanted to hit and weren't there. And immediately you're getting a bunch of private stuff, a bunch of private feeds that have HTTP basic authentication on the beginning of the URL, stratechery membership only feeds. All this kind of jazz started coming up in the list that I was testing. And so then I started having to, got to put in all the exclusionary, regular expression garbage to try to kick all that stuff out. And if you just had a simple tag that said, is this a private member only feed or is it not? Then I wouldn't have to go through all that.
Be similar to the lock tag, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's good for, well, here's the other token of that. You've got on private podcast feeds, there can be different levels of security. Maybe only secure the media. That's really the lowest level where the feed URL is still public. Yeah, and it can still be pulled into a directory. Then you go to that next level where both the feed and the RSS feed are authenticated. And then really at the highest level of security in private podcasting, it's really no longer a podcast. It's just a stream. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I could go for that, especially having a directory as well, where I could say, we just don't index that. We leave that alone. But on the opposite token, then that gives someone that maybe is up to sinister, then they go after that feed. What is in here? What, let's try to hack this so we can, consume what's being hidden. I don't know. That's two sides of the coin there. That would be a good one to ask Angelo.
Well, because anytime you have an index, whether it's an open whether it's an open directory or whether it's something private like the infrastructure that backs Podcast Addict or Overcast or something like that, you're just going to end up with a lot of stuff in there. And what you see is people requesting feeds using those private URLs. And you see a username and a password separated by colon before the ampersand, or before the @ symbol, and you see those, and it's like, oh my God, I got to purge this out of the logs. I mean, these are people's passwords. I don't even want this I don't want this in here.
Right. Well, this is the problem with some of these private podcasting solutions that have been put up. I've always told customers, you need to look closely how that's implemented, because sometimes security is implied. It isn't explicit. Mm-hmm. And you're just highlighting and don't say anything. That's an implied security because someone is embedding that user and password in that call to that media file. So
I don't think I would ever use a service that, if you're going to do a membership only service and you get back like something that has an auth token in the URL, mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. But if you're going to have to put in a username and password, that's highly sketchy. I don't think that's.
So it sounds like, by the way, I am so turned on right now. So that sounds like a winner to add.
I was going to put it, I wanted to throw it by you guys first before I actually made it, an actual proposal and threw it in the pool.
Yeah, I think I'm going to throw that one over to Angelo too, because he always is he's the one to come up. Matter of fact, he's got some feedback for you guys on the lock tag. He was talking to me about it last Friday.
Hit us. Can you tell us, or is it something he needs to send?
It's about that authentication piece. It's about the email authenticating and looking at it from a directory and looking at it from a private podcaster standpoint where the person's on their own .com. But anyway, he can explain it. He's the one that's thought through the scenario. So
yeah, cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's been super valuable.
Maybe a moment here to thank a few people who've supported Podcast Index, Podcasting 2.0, and have actually sent us some treasure. All we want is your time, your treasure, or your talent. That's the value for value model. This is what the servers, everything runs on it. And the way to do that is, again, you can sign up at podcastindex.org, become a developer if you're a developer, join podcastindex.social, join in the conversation. And we love the treasure. And Dave, who can we thank today?
This is our. You can listen to our fund, our Buy Blubrry fund.
Yes,
here as it grows.
Send more money. We need more to buy Blubrry.
Greg Carlwood from Higher Side Chats. He's helping us buy Blubrry. Let's see. He sent us $500.
Whoa! Now, he mentioned this to me because he'd been asking for a long time to interview me. It actually came through crossover of our media tribes, people who listen to him also listen to No Agenda. And this was very focused on podcasting 2.0. Like I'll put it in the show notes. Very focused on podcasting 2.0. Great guy. And as you can see, he's all on board. Thank you so much, man. That really appreciate that. Really do.
Yeah, he had a message that said, thanks to both of you. You're doing the Lord's work. Greg Carlwood, hire said check. Y'all, Mike, you can go ahead and get my office ready.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
Hey, I'll build another 10-foot shed here in Traverse City.
We're getting close, man. We're getting close.
Let's see. Let me make sure this is not anonymous. No. Oh, okay. This is from Sir Jeffrey Zellen. Love the board meeting. He gave us $50, and he said, love the board meetings. I find a lot of inspiration to contribute over on the Mastodon based on your conversations. Hope this helps pay for someone to go jiggle the wire and loosen up the clogged bits. He's Muppet 1856 on podcastindex.social.
Nice.
Yeah,
all right.
We'll go jiggle the handle. Sure. Let's see what we got. 1234 $12.34 from Mark Taylor. No note from Mark. Thank you, Mark. We got let's see, $20 from Scott Gerard. Again, no note. Thank you, Scott.
This is a good week.
Yeah, it is a good week. Let's see this. Oh, we got an automatic. So I got an idea for peerage. If we need a GitHub repository, and we just put people into the GitHub repo to help them beef up their GitHub profile. So, because that's the way developers.
Right.
I mean, it's like LinkedIn.
It's pay for your profile. I'm sure we're breaking some terms of service with GitHub somewhere, but great idea. Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah, just see how long it lasts.
We'll get them to do a pull request, and we'll just merge their pull request, and they get instant cred.
Nice. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. So he's got a new subscription for $8 a month.
Subscriptions are great. We really appreciate those. Those help a lot.
Dwayne Goldie II. Thank you, Dwayne.
Thanks, Dwayne.
And let's see, is this our last one? Yeah, this is our last one. Lauren Ball, $24.20. He says, "Happy Friday, gentlemen. This month, the short letter. Enjoy the weekend." Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. That's great.
2420. I'm not sure if that's numerology or not.
No, the 420 part I picked up on. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's our group. Good group.
Well, I'm going to defragment everybody.
You've been defragmented.
Okay. Thank you all very much. This is what it runs on. This is how the only way. There's no advertising, commercial interests, anything that could cloud the vision of preserving podcasting as a platform for free speech and bringing everybody in and spreading the love by retooling as a platform of value for all. We, of course, appreciate it when you can send some treasure our way. Go to podcastindex.org, and down at the bottom, big red donate button. There's also a way to send us some lightning Bitcoin.
About $600 closer to being Todd and Mike's boss.
That's right. Can't wait. I'm going to make them get coffee.
Yeah, I was about to say, guys,
happy to do it.
We're going to put better coffee in the break room.
Yeah, things will improve. Mm-hmm. Adam's in charge of dev.
Yeah.
Right.
Adam, now be honest with you. You never want to be in charge of dev because that is just nothing but a.
No, tell me. I was when we took my company public in '96, and I never wanted to be the CEO. I was CTO. So I had great people working with me, but I remember becoming, because we were NASDAQ, becoming Y2K compliant. Oh, brother, let me tell you, I learned a lot. I learned a lot during that process.
At the time, during the Y2K thing, I worked at a insurance brokerage as a sysadmin. And we had a floppy disk that we would run what do you call, was a 3.5-inch floppy that would go around to every computer in the entire, this is 500 machines, You would put the floppy disk in, boot off the floppy, and you'd run a couple of commands. It would tell you whether the BIOS was Y2K compatible or not. If it wasn't, then you had a firmware you had to load. I mean, it took weeks.
I did get a NASDAQ commendation for being the first public company to be fully Y2K compliant, which I'm sad about, seeing the big scam that it was.
Oh, my mom bought her bunker and her generators and invested heavily in Armory.
Hey, it's still useful today. So
that's a fact.
All right.
Be more useful.
Gentlemen, it's been so nice having you on. It's nice to just chat for a little bit. Is there anything we missed? Anything that you guys want to talk about besides the acquisition? Any other? We're in a quiet period right now. Right. Anything else on your radar that we can do to improve your lives?
Well, I think just for the podcasters that are listening, I think that it's more important than ever that you do everything you can to build your show and your brand on land you own, whether that be your own .com and on your own iron or whatever it may be. I think having your own, having your own website in this day and time and controlling your RSS feed is really, really critical. If anything else, make sure you own that .com that RSS feed is associated with.
Amen.
Yeah, that's some great advice.
I always like to say, build your show on your platform, not somebody else's. And
100%.
We can help you do that.
And whatever you do, look for protocols, not platforms, because that's people just jumping from the fat into the fire everywhere.
Yep.
I mean,
thanks, Adam and Dave, for letting us come on. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Yep.
It was awesome.
No, thank you guys, and thank you for being a pillar of the podcasting space, but also just great members of the and I mean it when I say community, because podcasting it's always going to be a community as long as we have free and open podcasting, and you are clearly right there at the tip of the spear with everybody else, and really, really appreciate it. And thanks again for coming on. And I'm sure we'll be updated. We'll have you guys on again in the future, after the sale. So.
Awesome.
It'll just be a meeting in that one.
Yeah, that's just a quick meeting. Dave, anything for you as we wrap it up?
No, I gotta go to take care of the day job. So I'm good. I just need to. I need some food. I just need to eat some lunch.
Everybody, go get your favorite dev some lunch. Pizza works, I hear. And thank you very much for joining us once again for Podcasting 2.0. We'll be back again with another board meeting of the future next Friday. See you then.
You have been listening to Podcasting 2.0. Visit podcastindex.org for more information.
Podcasts are cool.